What's up, Digidestins? This is Kyle D, better known as RideMyAvatar, and guess what today is? None other than Japanese Tuesday. So we're going to cover some amazing decks to talk about. We have a lot to cover, especially with BT-12 just around the corner. I figured it'd be interesting to talk about decks that are kind of just starting to make some reoccurrence and resurgence in the meta. So, long forgotten a little bit, but I think we can have a good conversation about it. So without further ado, tell me what kind of decks you want me to possibly cover. I give a lot of lists. Maybe next week I'll cover that one in depth. But hey, without further ado, let's get into the video and talk about it. So guys, we're going to talk about none other than Digimon CG Guide. This is where most of the content creators get their Japanese lists and gets a good understanding. It does need to be Google translated. You can find it here is the website, but this is going to help you out to understand what the metas are like. This kind of gives you a lot of what JP is doing and gives you a lot of information. So stuff like this is very vital in my opinion, but let's really look at it in a point of view as we always do. So first off, let's see how it's going. Shine Greymon's almost at 100 tops at this rate, at this breakdown level. Kind of crazy Shine Greymon's pulling this far ahead, but no surprise there. If you are worried about it getting hit, expect it to get hit. And what do I mean by that? It's just how the name of the game goes, especially with JP. If the deck is this dominant and we get closer and closer to, let's say, set 14 and nothing changes with Shine Greymon dominancy, that will be on the chopping block for a hit. So I don't expect you guys to be confident enough to take that in, but taking a look at everything, it's pretty decently fine. Outside of, now Shine Greymon's at a point where it's pulled 15%, and even just Royal Knights are at 10%, and they're not climbing up as fast anymore. Shine Greymon's just been getting like 10 new decks each week, and that just because best deck in format is best deck in format. Everybody else is trying to keep up, and it's really interesting to see. Let's take a real quick look at this. Shine Greymon, 10 new wins since last week. That's a massive jump compared to everybody's like 2 to 3. Greymon Tribal went from getting only like 2 wins last week to now up to 5+ wins, which is really good to see. A little bit of shift in the meta calls, which I'm noticing. The 5 new decks are actually switching over to a different variant, even with the restrictions there. You have Beelzemon X getting 1. Hunter's actually pushing up ahead by +4. You have Mirage Gauga, Red Hybrid, Blue Flare, Cross Hearts. Didn't have any tops this week, which is kind of interesting to see. You have Alphamon +1, Bloom Hydra Course +1. Rosemon stopped getting some love, it seems, these last couple weeks. It hasn't been getting that much traction. Maybe people are just switching over to Shine Greymon. Machine Dramon got a +4 this week. Jessmon got +3. All Force got +2. Gemimon got +1. Yellow Hybrid got +1. We're at 654 decks of data, and this is really interesting to see and use to understand how the meta is shaping up. And it's like this because I like using data and understanding. So let's get into it. First off, it looks like the shift has gone into being more Black War Greymon theme and centric to start trying to focus on killing Tamers, killing, the Marcuses, and getting bodies off the board. Stuff like that really does add up a little bit. And what's really interesting to me and what I want to explain into this, especially since Shine Greymon can minus DP your Digimon, it gets better to have that with, Metal Greymon X Antibody, making it so DP can't be reduced by your opponent's effects and isn't affected by Digivolution effects. This is usually what common trends once the best deck of the format is kind of more set in stone, especially because you could use like Metal Greymon X Antibody, get your DP a little bit bigger to handle stuff. And to be honest with you, the double D Digivolution can really be some beneficial help. I mean, let's even go into it. I think the fact of just having Black War Greymon be able to kill Tamers is huge in a way. Just being able to do that for 4 costs. Might be able to pop, 1 Marcus or the 5 cost Marcus, which isn't terrible. and that can lead to being snowballing effects. Then you do have like Yuya to make it so you're not affected by your opponent's options. Tai making your blockers and keeping it your turn. Cool Boy for your X antibody evolve draws. X antibody options. You have like Metal Greymon Alterius mode. And the only downside is that because Shine Greymon is the dominant threat, you have to worry about its DP minusing effects as a threat in itself. But even just having Hades Force can definitely deal some damage and set them back a bit. So that's worth using that as information you want to go with. Then we have like Hunters. Hunters is a tried and true newer deck, which is what we want to see, is that since that deck's conception, it's definitely pulling ahead. We see this in the chart itself, that it is definitely bumping up just a tad bit. Hunters is at 37s, while Crossheart is only at 22. Showing Hunters is still showing to want to be the ringleader. The deck, out of the two Cross War very centric decks, I mean, we do have Blue Flare and stuff like that. Blue Flare is its own kind of thing, but, Hunters themed with Crossheart. It's showing that this deck is resilient and wanting to pull ahead. Why wouldn't you? Gumdramon being able to Digicross for a reduced cost 2 instantly puts this deck ahead in ways that it wasn't really doing much before. You could go Gumdramon into Arrestdramon for basically 2 cost, because as long as you have the Tamers, you can set up, it gains Rush, and finish game that way. Quite useful, especially if you get put to 4 memory. You has an errata on the English side. Remember, it's not plus 2000 DP, it's plus 1 memory. So being able to put stuff in to extend your plays really can help you out, because you actually want to sit on the 4 magic number. And that really does help you out in the end game. You have Shoutmon King version, which lets you play one of the 3 main casts, which really is useful because that sets you up. Just because of an on-player when Digivolving, getting a Tamer out of your hand, and it's not restricted as long even if you have multiple copies out, it just sets you up pretty nicely. Like Clockmon's there for the search, and then you have like Old Man Clock Shop or Watchman. I hate it. I wish it was Old Clock Shop Man. It just makes more sense. But you have like Quartz, and also Arrestdramon's superior mode, especially if you get like jamming going underneath this thing. Unless it's an option, you can clear out a bunch of security with just a bunch of Old Clock Shop men. So basically what you're trying to do is almost, rush down that Shy Greymon player a bit and keep applying pressure. As long as they don't have a way of stopping you in their security, you can get the jamming on board. Arrestdramon's superior mode swings once, have like 4 Old Man Clock Shop here. This guy is going to give you extra security checks, and the more you have, the more lethal you get, and that can lead to being a problem for a lot of players. And, the old, Quartzmon definitely helps you out, especially, let's say you clear out the security, and you hit, like, 4 of their Marcuses. As long as you can keep it your turn, you can go into Quartzmon, and then lock down those Marcuses. They can't swing. So if Marcus can't swing, Marcus, burst mode can't do what burst mode wants to do. And that's huge, Just being able to prevent Marcus from swinging means no free evolution. They have to pay for costs now. That's going to be really important, especially being able to lock down after you killed off all those Marcuses. And, Quartzmon can also help you that way, too, to remove security that way. So a lot of this gets useful information there. So stuff like that to keep in the back of your mind. And then another deck that's just been kind of just flying under the radar, in my opinion, Yellow Hybrid. So why am I talking about Yellow Hybrid here? Well, it's a deck that kind of just dissipated for a bit. But now it's kind of just building up momentum. It switched into a lower end instead of worrying about going into burst mode and that like shenanigans. It focuses on making your Marcuses punch. You get Marcus for punching for game as long as you get one of your Agumons out, or in ways of just setting yourself up. Go wide, you can hybrid for game shenanigans, But also using like this Rise Greymon here, when Digivolve, you may play one Marcus from your hand without paying its play cost. All turns when a red or yellow tamer is deleted, place Marcus from your trash face down at the top of your security stack. So this helps cycle in, especially if you lose a Marcus in battle. And that just keeps coming into usefulness. Rise Greymon playing your tamers, X antibody, then you have Rise Greymon being able to play your tamers, which can lead to being this Marcus. All turns when this tamer becomes suspended, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 3000 DP for the turn, and if you have a Digimon with Agumon or Greymon in its name in play, you gain 1 memory. It all adds up. Shining Blast being able to may play 1 Marcus without paying its cost. Then if you have three of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 2000 DP for the turn for each yellow and red tamer you have in play. The more Marcuses you get out, the more ties, the TKs, all that start adding up pretty quick. Then you have Final Shining Burst. One of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 12,000 DP until the end of your opponent's turn. Then you may play 1 Marcus card from your hand without paying its cost. So, I mean, an 8 cost, basically removing most threats, really good. It all adds up eventually. Like Geo Greymon being when Digivolve, search your security stack, reveal 1 red or yellow tamer, and play it without paying its memory cost. If you played a card, recovery 1, then shuffle your security stack. Geo Greymon definitely helped out Yellow Hybrid in a way that the deck really needed, because now you get to play your free tamers, and now this style is just like hybrid Marcus Punch. It doesn't need to go into a top end. It just focuses on going wide. Then you can just hybrid for game shenanigans, or just set up, get your free, Geo Greymon extending your plays, and then your turn when, it has an inheritable, when your red or yellow tamer becomes suspended, draw a card. All this adds up eventually, and it becomes very useful. I think I like that they went with the Koromon egg. You could also say and justify the Guillemon line, that rookie, you could do the draw, Digimon plus Guillemon promo to draw you 2 cards. That's a valid strategy as well, but it just comes down to player preference. I think this deck has a lot of potential going forwards, and it could make a good resurgence, especially if the way it keeps wanting to go play style wise. Especially since you can recycle back your Marcuses and set back up. This deck will get hurt and probably blown out of the water if a restriction happens to Marcus. This deck won't exist as much. They would probably switch over to Lopmon variant, where it would just focus on trashing security, taking effect of, the Contour support that basically, if it gets trashed, it gets to activate, all that good stuff there. So stuff like that is good to pay attention to and understand, especially going forwards in meta calls. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace!